In the last seconds of your life, your brain doesn't go quiet. It does the opposite. And what happens inside your skull in those final moments is something science has measured, documented, and then quietly struggled to explain ever since. Because it doesn't fit the story we've been telling ourselves about death. Not even close. Picture this. Your heart stops. The blood stops moving. Every system in your body begins its shutdown sequence. By every medical definition that exists, you are dead. And then your brain does something nobody expected. It wakes up, not metaphorically, not poetically, in the most literal, measurable, electrode on the skull sense of the word. The electrical activity inside your brain, the same activity that produces everything you've ever thought, felt, or experienced, surges to levels never recorded during normal waking life. Higher than focus, higher than dreaming, higher than any conscious state scientists had ever measured in a living person. The dying brain isn't powering down. It's firing harder than it ever did while you were alive. And here's the first thing that should bother you about that. We've known this for over a decade. It's been published. It's been replicated. It's been sitting in peer-reviewed journals, while the rest of the world went on assuming that death was a dimmer switch slowly turning off. It isn't. It's more like the opposite of that. And once you understand what's actually happening, layer by layer, the question stops being whether something is happening at death. The question becomes what it feels like from the inside. Let's go deeper, because the electricity is only the first layer. There's a molecule involved, and this molecule is the reason neuroscientists started getting very quiet about this topic very fast. Your brain produces it naturally. Right now, while you're reading this, trace amounts of it exist inside your skull. Under normal conditions, it does something. Researchers still aren't sure exactly what. But at the moment of death, levels of this molecule spike higher than at any other point in a human life. The molecule is called DMT. If you've heard of it, you already know why that's significant. If you haven't, DMT is the most potent psychedelic compound ever identified in human biology. People who encounter it describe entering what feels like a completely separate reality. Not a dream, not a blur, a reality more vivid, more structured, and more real feeling than the one you're sitting in right now. Your brain makes this, and it releases a flood of it the moment you die. A brain already firing its most intense electrical storm in history, simultaneously flooding itself with the most powerful consciousness-altering compound it knows how to produce. For what? That's the question nobody can answer. The conservative explanation is that it's a cascade, a meaningless chemical accident, dying neurons misfiring in patterns that look meaningful from the outside, but feel like nothing from the inside. Maybe. But here's what makes that answer hard to hold on to. Close your eyes for a second and think about the last vivid dream you had. The one where you were completely convinced it was real, where you felt fear or love, or the specific weight of a place that didn't exist. Your brain built that entire world from nothing. It made you believe it completely, and it did that on a slow night. Now imagine what it might build during its single most intense surge of electrical activity, flooded with DMT, every region tied to memory, emotion, and the sense of self firing simultaneously. What does that feel like from the inside? That's not a rhetorical question, because some people have been to the edge of that window and come back, and what they describe has been consistent enough, across enough people, across enough centuries, that researchers eventually had to stop dismissing it and start studying it. Here's what they found, and this is the part that changes everything. Thousands of people who have been resuscitated after clinical death describe the same experience, not similar experiences, the same one, across cultures that have never spoken to each other, across centuries of recorded history, across people who had no framework, no prior belief, and no reason to agree. Movement through darkness, light, and then this, a complete, simultaneous replay of every moment of their life. Not a highlight reel, not a flashback. Every moment, all at once, as if time had stopped being a line and become a room they were standing inside. Researchers call it the life review, and it is the most consistent detail in the entire near-death literature. Now, here's the revelation, the part that stops people cold. When neuroscientists mapped which parts of the brain activate during the dying surge, they found that the regions lighting up most intensely are the exact regions responsible for autobiographical memory, the storage of your personal history, every experience you've ever had, every person you've ever loved, every moment of your life compressed into the matter behind your eyes. At death, your brain doesn't let any of it go without a fight. It plays all of it back, at once, in what may be the most vivid experience a human being is biologically capable of having. Think about what that means. Right now, inside your brain, every moment of your life is stored. The face of someone you haven't thought about in years. The smell of a room you stood in once when you were 7. The exact feeling of a specific afternoon you couldn't describe if you tried. All of it is in there. And in your final seconds, your brain may pull every single piece of it into conscious experience simultaneously. Not to torture you, not randomly, but because that's what the dying brain does. It holds on. And here's where the science runs out of comfortable answers. Because a cardiologist named Pim van Lommel did something nobody else had done. He didn't interview people after the fact. He set up a prospective study. Hundreds of cardiac arrest patients, monitored from the moment they arrived, tracked from resuscitation through recovery. What he found got published in one of the most respected medical journals on the planet. Nearly 1 in 5 patients reported a structured near-death experience. But that wasn't the part that unsettled his colleagues. This was, some of those patients reported verified perceptions, things that happened in the room while they were clinically dead, things they had no biological mechanism to perceive, things confirmed afterward by the medical staff who were present. They were dead, and they were watching. Van Lommel didn't claim to know what that meant. He said only that the data suggested something medicine had never seriously considered, that consciousness and brain function might not be the same thing. That is a quiet sentence, but it has an enormous amount of weight inside it, because everything neuroscience has ever built rests on one foundational assumption that has never actually been proven. Only assumed that when the brain stops, you stop, that there is nothing it is like to be dead. The data doesn't disprove that, but it no longer simply confirms it either. So here's where you are, right now, alive, reading this, your brain running its ordinary hum of electricity, somewhere inside it, every moment of your life stored and waiting. One day, not today, hopefully not for a very long time, your heart will stop, and in the seconds that follow, your brain will do the most extraordinary thing it has ever done. It will surge. It will flood itself with the most powerful compound it produces. It will light up every region tied to memory, self, and experience. And then it will either produce the most vivid hallucination biology is capable of generating, or it won't be a hallucination at all. Science doesn't know which. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because the people who pass through that window and don't come back can't tell us what they found on the other side. And the ones who almost crossed, who were pulled back from the border and returned with their accounts, are so consistent in one specific detail that it's impossible to stop thinking about. They say it didn't feel like nothing. Every single one of them. It didn't feel like nothing. For every human being who has ever lived, this window has been waiting. Every person you've ever known, every person you've ever lost, every civilization that ever rose and fell, all of them passed through it, and not one of them sent a single word back. But the ones who almost did, across thousands of years and thousands of miles and thousands of lives that had no reason to tell the same story, they all came back saying the same thing, that there was something there, not nothing, something. The brain does not go gently. In its final seconds, it does the most extraordinary thing it has ever done. A surge that looks, from every measurable angle, like the signature of experience. What that experience is, whether it's the most elaborate thing biology can produce, or whether it's a door, remains the one question that has haunted every civilization that has ever existed. It is still unanswered, and you will find out. Every single person reading this will find out. Just not yet.